Hi, I'm Mark from jazzguitarlessons.net, and you're listening to Album Deep Dives. Welcome to Jazz Guitar Lessons, where we help guitarists learn jazz faster, express themselves more fluently, and have fun along the way. My name is Mark, and if you're looking to learn jazz, form better practice habits, and especially if you enjoy a French accent, make sure to subscribe. For today's episode, we will cover one of the pivotal works of the acclaimed guitarist Peter Bernstein. Peter is one of the most influential jazz guitar players of this generation, and if you don't believe me, simply believe the legendary Jim Hall, who said that Peter Bernstein, and I quote, has paid attention to the past as well as the future. He is the most impressive guitarist I've ever heard. He plays the best of them all for swing, logic, feel, and taste. End quote. This pretty much sums it up, as Peter Bernstein had such a trajectory playing with the likes of Sonny Rollins, Jimmy Cobb, Joshua Redman, Diana Krall, amongst others. His lyricism and melodic capability while soloing and comping is very impressive. His solos are full of complex harmonic and rhythmic content, but they always make the utmost melodic sense. During an interview with Pablo Held, Peter Bernstein mentioned that one of the biggest lessons he took from Ted Dunbar, actually Ted was a recognized guitarist and professor, is the way that he thinks about the notes inside of a scale. He looks at each individual note as a word and then tries to find a way to build sentences around each word or note. So Peter Bernstein describes this approach to soloing in a very similar way. He has trained his ears to recognize what note or notes each phrase is really about, and practiced finding different ways to support those featured notes. Earth Tones, released in 1998 under the Criss Cross Jazz label, is Peter's first release as a leader of his famous trio with legendary organist Larry Goldings and drummer Bill Stewart. This group has played together since 1988, toured around the world several times, and is still releasing new materials to this day. They've played together for more than 30 years now. The album opens strong with one of Peter's own composition, Metamorphosis. And in case you're not familiar with organ trios, they are something special because there's no bass player. And the organ takes the role of the bass and accompaniment for the other instruments. So guitar has a very special role in this type of group because its register and sound quality can fit right in the middle of the organist's left hand or pedals and organist's right hand. Listen here to how well the sounds of these two instruments, organ and guitar, blend together. It's such a cozy combination. Take special attention of how Peter grabs the fourth interval motif of the melody and then develops it. This is something that Jim Hall, of course Peter's teacher when he studied at the New School in New York, was a true master of. Next up is another original tune of Peter Bernstein, Sublime Indifference. This tune has a more traditional sound compared to Metamorphosis. Both the melody and harmony are paying respect to the tradition, and we can certainly hear in Peter's solo as well. It's said that Jim Hall said, Peter is a player that has paid attention to the past as well as the future, as in the quote, so listen now to Peter's control over the bebop language and how he uses it to create more modern sounding lines by adding sidestepping across the bar line ideas, polyrhythms, and other modern resources. Dragonfly, also written by Peter, has a very different sound from the previous two tunes on the record. Dragonfly features a long minor vamp, followed by a series of very interesting dominant chord resolutions. It is a tune that sounds a lot more modern, and Peter's soloing still manages to keep its roots in the tradition by paying homage to the blues still. And of course, a healthy dosage of more modern applications of pentatonic lines. We can even hear a tinge of Pat Metheny-influenced vocabulary here and there. The next track on the album is the standard Who Can I Turn To? This beautiful standard features Peter's melodicism at its best. We hear him solo gracefully through the form, making use of melodic motifs, fast bebop runs, and just pretty much every tool in the arsenal. But the real treat, in my opinion, is his chord melody introduction to the song. He takes so much consideration into his phrasing, it's almost magical. He really makes the melody stand out and reharmonizes the tune on the go to create very interesting tension and resolution. Peter truly makes the instrument sing on this one. Hey guys, just a quick note, if you're enjoying this content and you're eager to boost your own jazz guitar playing, then connect with us. We've transformed the jazz skills of thousands of guitarists. You can find the link in the description or head directly over to jazzguitarlessons.net to begin your journey. Alright, let's dive back into the episode. The trio's version of Berlin's How Deep Is the Ocean is refreshing to say the least. We are so used to hearing this song at a medium upswing tempo, especially on instrumental versions, especially at jam sessions actually, and on this record here we hear it as a ballad. It starts with a beautiful, soulful organ introduction by Larry Goldings, which sets the mood perfectly. Larry's solo is amazing and full of emotion, and Peter phrases the melody of the tune like only he can, and his interpretation we get the chance to see a different face from Bernstein. His phrasing is so soulful and bluesy, and he uses very different vocabulary than what we've heard previously in this record. I mean, soul, blues, and jazz are very related, but they have pretty different idiosyncrasies, which Peter shows he knows them very well. On the track Breakthrough, a Hank Mobley song, the trio gives us a masterclass in interaction, in interplay actually. So right from the start, the melody is played as a canon by Peter and Larry, which gives the tune a very interesting texture. During the solos, they both start blowing at the same time and interacting with each other in a phenomenal way, then slowly lay out, leaving one instrument soloing on its own. It's such an organic way to approach a tune, and it creates very memorable musical conversations between the three of them. finish off the album, the trio plays another one of Peter's compositions, Carrot Cake. This tune stands out from the rest because it's very much funk-oriented. Bill Stewart's playing on this track is so in the pocket and understated that it makes you ease into the groove and just feel great. Peter takes his time with his solo and makes pretty interesting use of triadic ideas, combining them with tasty blues ideas. It's a feel-good song to close this great album. If you want to explore more of Peter Bernstein's playing and compositions, I would recommend listening to albums recorded at different times in his career to get a full picture of this phenomenal musician. For his early days, you can listen to Something's Burnin', a great album with Jimmy Cobb and Brad Meldau, John Weber. Moving on, I'd recommend you listen to Monk, an album he recorded as a tribute to Thelonious Monk, a huge influence of Peter's, of course. And for his more recent work, I would recommend his solo guitar live at Smalls. It's an album that it was released in 2017, I believe, and his latest record is Signs Live, also very recent. All right, guys, I hope this deep dive was serving as a good introduction to Peter Bernstein in case you didn't know about him at all. And if you did, I hope you learned something new about him and about his playing. So the album described in this deep dive here was the start of what the New York Times named the best organ trio of the last decade. And it shows us how much, it teaches us about Peter's approach, actually. So we can hear his deep knowledge and love and respect for the jazz tradition, as well as Peter taking the next step in making the tradition his own. Peter Bernstein's a tremendous melodic player, and I'm sure we will keep being amazed by him and his new records in the future.